Hello and welcome to my channel Inspiring Life Changes. My name's Colette and this reading that I'm doing today is for the new moon in Sagittarius, total solar eclipse that is taking place on the 4th of December. So this is going to be my intuitive interpretation of the energies at this time, what I think is kind of playing out mostly for us at this time, the energies, the biggest energies that are in play during this solar eclipse as well. So I'm going to call this reading In Between Worlds, and I hope that as I go through the reading that you will kind of pick up on why I'm actually calling it that as well. So I'm going to start the reading off with a new moon eclipse energy, which is what gives us that solar eclipse. That is the moon coming in between us and the sun to block out the light of the sun, and it's all about big change. We also have this one here as well, this card here, which talks of it being revolutionary, which it truly is at this time as well, mostly due to some of the other planets that are going to be involved. And so we have new moon in Sagittarius energy, which is talking about luck. Sagittarius represents truth, they're truth seekers, justice, fortune, because it's also Jupiter ruled energy. In Jupiter it's all about good luck and good fortune. And then we have the mutable energy of the Sagittarius moon. Sagittarius being a mutable energy means that it's very flexible, changeable. So here it's saying that nothing is yet set in stone. And that means that we can change our minds, we can make other decisions, we don't have to stick with things the way that we have done. And that is an interesting element that's coming in with this reading as well, because we also have the South Node card here. The last eclipse we had was the North Node. Now we have the South Node, which is the energy or the point in the sky which is going to bring in the eclipse energy. It's at the very, very end of Sagittarius. And so this is the last eclipse that we're going to be having in Sagittarius, as both the nodes are going to move into Scorpio and Taurus energy for the next 18 months in January. So the South Node is all about letting things go. It's about the past energy. It's about where we're coming from, what we need to release. And so that's the big theme around this solar eclipse at this time as well, what it is that we're needing to free ourselves from. So at the time of the new moon, we have the divine masculine sun energy conjunct the divine feminine moon energy. And that is always the case at the time of new moons. So the new moon is also, this new moon, sorry, is also a total solar eclipse, as I've said, which is happening on the 4th of December 2021 at 12 degrees and 21 minutes. I would just say quickly for anybody who hasn't seen my videos before that I write this up as well so that I can read from the blog that I'm putting this on as well. So if anybody's interested, there is a blog which I will link it as well in the description box down below. I will also link a free natal chart as well for anybody who wants to find out more about their own astrological outlook at this time as well. I think it's probably quite good to know what is happening, where the houses are, etc. And if you don't know this already, then check out the link below so you can go and see a bigger picture for yourself. So yeah, the degrees that it's happening in is 12 degrees and 21 minutes, and it is taking place at 7:42 hours UK time. So this is going to be different for other parts of the world as well. It will be occurring in the freedom-loving, truth-seeking, boundary-pushing, mutable fire sign of Sagittarius in the 9th house. Therefore, if you have any planets or points between the 0 to 17 degrees of Sagittarius, this powerful total solar eclipse energy will be strongest in your life. And solar eclipse energy, as with all the eclipse energies, they don't just last for that like moment in time or for that day or even the week or 2 weeks. It's a long lasting energy. So some eclipse energies can last for about 6 months. So it's going to take us into this 2022 energy that we're moving towards. Also, those with anything at the same degrees of Gemini, Virgo and Pisces, which are the other 3 mutable energies here as well, will also feel this huge life-changing event. This new moon total solar eclipse in Sagittarius will have. Whichever house these 12 degrees, 21 minutes of Sagittarius falls in for you on an individual level is where this will show up in your personal life. Like for you personally, you will see it manifest in the house that this is taking place in, which is another good reason to check out your chart as well, because then it gives you more understanding of what to expect. For the collective, however, this is going to be in the 9th house energy of our belief systems, justice, law and higher learning, as well as I was saying, freedom, truth-seeking, all those very Sagittarian 9th house energies. So this new moon total solar eclipse has both the sun and the moon conjunct Mercury at 15 degrees 12 minutes. And this trio are also opposing Black Moon Lilith at 15 degrees 23 in Gemini, making this a very tight opposition with only a matter of minutes between Mercury and Black Moon Lilith. The Black Moon Lilith energy has been kind of there for quite some time now. It's still there in the background, that kind of rage energy, righteous rage, people beginning to feel uncomfortable with their lives, what's going on around them. This is all Black Moon Lilith energy, as she really kind of is pushing us to question. So especially in Gemini, questions are one of the big things of Gemini. So the energies have been with us since and strong in our lives since August. And she is the point of the moon that is, during her orbit with the Earth, the furthest away point. So you never actually get to see that side of the moon, and it's when the moon is what's known as being in apogee. So as the moon goes around the Earth, it gets to that furthest away point, and that is the Black Moon Lilith point. So that in itself makes it kind of secretive, mysterious, and talks about kind of taboo things as well, the dark side of nature. And she's, for this reason, she has the connections with that raw, dark, untamable kind of energy of the female, emotional shadow side of the feminine nature that we all possess, whether male or female. So this total solar eclipse is like the culmination point of all this Black Moon Lilith energy, which is also about feeling like you are not being taken seriously, being denied, unfairness of a situation. Those feelings of unfairness and not being understood as an individual can lie buried for many, many years, and it often stems right back to our childhood, things that were not recognised within us, things that were kind of like not given an importance about us as individuals. And these feelings, these emotions kind of can simmer away until they create a deep sense of anger or rage within us, at all the injustices in our own lives, as well as those we are experiencing personally in our world, and also to those around us in the world at large as well. So this in Gemini, this could come through as others not accepting our point of view, our intelligence, or our understanding on something, especially if it goes against the long-held belief on something, not wanting to listen to a different perspective, or speaking loudly over the top of us to let us know our voice is not worth hearing, as it's too different and difficult to be grasped. So this could be like in conversations or arguments that you may end up having with other people, that people will just kind of raise their voice so that they kind of drown you out to try and show you that you're irrelevant and that your point of view is not worth listening to. It could also manifest as seeing our environment in a dark and despairing way, not seeing any way out of difficult situations, not being able to find the source of light from within, which can bring on strong moments of cognitive dissonance, as this total solar eclipse is also going to push us out of our comfort zone again, of what we believe we know as well, because it is all about our beliefs, the beliefs that have built up over not just our lifetimes but previous lifetimes, generational lifetimes, things that are kind of like instilled into us from a very early age as being set in stone, literally. And of course, different generations, everything changes, and so it's kind of one generation trying to show the way for another generation as well, because everything changes constantly. But the older generation, the generation that has been brought up a certain way, is not willing to kind of open up to these new ideas that are coming through on another level of understanding, because the planets have moved generationally, things have changed. So, but this is even bigger as well than just that. So this could also have us reacting in such a way as to try and project this discomfort onto others, so as not to have to face and deal with our own shadow nature. The Sun, Moon and Mercury are also conjunct another interesting point known as the Great Attractor, which is fixed in the sky at 14 degrees 14 minutes in Sagittarius. And during this new moon total solar eclipse, the Great Attractor is in between the Sun and the Moon on one side and Mercury on the other. So while it will also be opposing Black Moon Lilith as well. So again, that Black Moon Lilith is going to be coming through very strongly. In Gemini, I've also heard Black Moon Lilith being spoken about as kind of bringing out the truth, like the ministry of truth. And again, that truth energy is very strong within this solar eclipse, the Sagittarius energy. So we can expect to see a lot of things being revealed at this time as well. So the Great Attractor is called this as it literally attracts star systems, like a huge magnetic hoover sucking up hundreds of thousands of galaxies, including our own, that are constantly being pulled towards it. So even our own galaxy is constantly being pulled towards this, this Great Attractor. Fortunately, we're so many millions of light miles away that it's going to take a long time. So it's a massive raw creative force that is located in the center of a supercluster, which is known as Lanika. I think that's how it's pronounced, not sure. So it is found between 150 and 250 million light years away in a part of the cosmos called the zone of avoidance. which kind of makes sense. And it's a part of the universe astronomers and scientists find difficult to observe at visible wavelengths due to it being obscured by too much of the dust and brilliance of the stars within the Milky Way. So the Milky Way kind of obscures it from actually being able to be kind of seen clearly. So there's not a huge amount of understanding about this particular object, massive great attractor. It is believed the galactic attractor has a localized mass concentration tens of thousands of times more massive than the Milky Way itself. And at the time of this total solar eclipse, which is the last one of 2021, as well as the last in Sagittarius before the nodes move in January 2022, it is the south node of our collective past, the things we need to release and let go of in order to allow us to move forward into a new start and a fresh beginning that is creating this eclipse. So again, it's more of that kind of letting go, releasing, cleansing energy with the south node and the great attractor there at the same time. It really is kind of clearing out this energy that we have been in over these last 18 months really, that is being kind of closed out at this time. So interestingly, the next full moon in Gemini on the 19th of December will also have the sun at 27 degrees of Sagittarius, which is a theme at the moment. All the new moons seem to be around that kind of 12-degree point, and all the full moons are then at the 27-degree point. But this one is particularly interesting as well because it's going to be right on top of the galactic center. So that's another galactic kind of connection, shall we say, that is happening, because the last full moon in Taurus was also next to a big energy that was it was next to the Pleiades and also Sedna as well, which is that star that takes so long to travel around. At least they think it's a star or a planet. Then again, they don't know because it's so far out. But that is to do with our precession as well, and how we actually change out of one sign on the universal clock, so to speak. So we go from one sign to the next, which is what is happening and occurring with us at this time as we're moving out of that Piscean energy. So so this is going to be the third time that there has been a huge kind of galactic connection, shall we say, at the time of the full or the new moons. And so the galactic themes are connected with the Aquarian energy of higher vibrational conscious intelligence, third eye activations, Kundalini awakening for some, as well as more personal experiences with those beings coming through now to help us with this level of light both we and Mother Gaia are moving into. So some people will be picking up on those higher vibrational energies that are coming through stronger and stronger at this time. So the sun has been conjunct the south node since before the last eclipse in Taurus, and on the 23rd of November he passed over the node, the south node, at 01 degrees and 33 minutes. And this has really put an extra emphasis on the clearing out and releasing of our long-held belief systems. The ideas and the old paradigm ways of viewing our world and the universe that have got us to this point in our individual and collective history all needs to be expanded and explored anew. In Sagittarius, this includes the ingrained beliefs that have become rigid and dogmatic due to the many years of our controlling indoctrinated educational system, which is the opposite energy of Gemini as well. Gemini is where we first start learning, early school days up to college years, and then from Gemini we go into the Sagittarius energy, which is the higher learning, universities, colleges, higher education, philosophy, all of that kind of understanding, seeing the world in a bigger way, and taking something that you learnt as a basic and expanding on it, expanding your knowledge and your wisdom on it. So but unfortunately our educational system has been very much kind of restricted, shall we say, for a long time now. The way we learn, what we're taught, it's all been very manipulated and managed, is probably the best way to put that. So and not being able to question these as well, that's another very strong point here. Again, as if they are set in stone and unchangeable. And with Sagittarius being a mutable sign, as is the Gemini energy as well, both mutable signs, this is exactly what we need to do. We need to be able to question, because if you can't question, then you can't go beyond where you are. You stay stuck and the energy becomes static. And when anything becomes static and like stagnates, it loses its life force. So so both the moon and the sun are also sextile to Saturn at 9 degrees and 14 minutes in Aquarius, and the south node, having just entered its last degree of Sagittarius at 0 degrees and 59 minutes. So this south node really is at the very end of Sagittarius. So it's the for the south node, that would be kind of like the anoretic or critical point, because it's moving out of one energy and into the next energy, where usually for the planets, when they're kind of moving into the next sign, the last degree is the 29 degree. That's kind of known as the anoretic or critical degree. But for the south node, it kind of, because it moves in reverse, because it's always retrograde, it's the final degree of any sign that is going to make, the first degree of any sign that is going to kind of really emphasize all of that energy that that sign and that house kind of represents. So this is all highlighting, during this total solar eclipse, the need to relinquish control, to break free of the restricting bonds and break out of our own defined limitations. With the ninth house governing both the law and the philosophical systems of questioning our existence, from which these laws have originally been created, and Saturn governing the legal courts, the legal system, which have grown out of maritime rule, which is the ability for man-made restrictions forced upon us by the ruling classes. There is a very interesting dynamic happening at this time, with Makemake at 8 degrees 37 minutes in Libra, which also governs similar themes such as fairness, justice, harmony. And Makemake is trining, and has been trining for quite some time, over to Saturn, while also being sextile with the south node in Sagittarius. So Makemake is the higher vibrational frequency of Saturn, and it's this long-term connection with Saturn in Aquarius here to remind us the difference between the universal kind of cosmic laws, if you like, those laws that are natural laws and can't be broken, that automatically govern over all of our lives, and those made by man in order to suppress and enslave. So Makemake is awakening within us the sovereign human right to be masters of our own destinies and not a hive mind to be controlled and manipulated by corporations and governments and elites and etc., because that's kind of the energy of Saturn, Saturn being the ruler of Capricorn. And since the 12th of January in 2020, with that big conjunction between Saturn and Pluto, that has been again this ongoing theme of breaking down, like from top level systems, breaking down to the grassroots level as Saturn moved into Aquarius. So the 9th house energy being mutable means it is also flexible, giving us the ability to change our minds and the direction we are going in. Sagittarius very easily can see things from another perspective, possibly because both the galactic centre, our connection to the wider expansive universe, along with the galactic attractor, are both found in this sign, teaching us to be more open-minded, to allow our minds to be changed and not to stick rigidly with a belief system, just because that's how it's always been. Sagittarius wants to explore the potential possibilities from all sides of knowledge learnt, as well as knowledge yet to be gained. If you have any planets or points at 0-2 degrees either side of the galactic attractor, which remember is at 14 degrees, so if you've got anything from the 10 degree point up to the 14 degree point of, sorry, the 12 degree point up to the 16 degree point, then this is going to be very important for yourselves, as it is said that there is a skill that the great attractor gives to people who have any planets or points within those degrees, and that is to kind of know what is coming. It's like you can see round corners, so to speak. You have some kind of idea of what's coming round that next corner without even having to kind of go and have a look first. You have some kind of sense of what's coming, and that can be in your own personal life as well as in a broader kind of life of other people, or also for the world itself as well. It's kind of like a forward way of seeing things. And I personally knew a very a psychic healer who was very open to this energy as well, and she once told me it was the ability to see things holographically. This is how she expressed it, as in the past creating the present, which will go on to create the future. And if you kind of put all these together, like you can see from the past, which has led to the present, where that energy is heading if it carries on in that certain direction. And it seems that this is even stronger between those Sagittarian degrees, because also the galactic attractor, the strength of its magnetic pull is so powerful that it can literally bend light as well. So that has got something to do with it, apparently, being able to, if you've got planets or points, you have that kind of psychic ability naturally. So another good reason to check out your own personal charts and to see if you have got anything within those degrees. So that's the 12 to 16 degree points of Sagittarius. So Mercury, the planet of communication, information, the media, writers, short journeys, and the ruler of Gemini, has been following along faithfully behind and conjunct the Sun since the 12th of November, when they were both in Scorpio. Mercury has always been conjunct the South Node since the 19th November. Mercury has also been conjunct the South Node since the 19th of November. And on the 25th of November, Mercury became conjunct the South Node exact. Again, adding more emphasis to this need to release the past, and particularly the stories that we have been telling ourselves constantly, repeating and holding on to over and over again, possibly from our early childhood. But again, it's the retelling of these same stories that kind of keeps things fixed and in place. So we may at this time be inclined to really want to talk things through with those in our close circle of friends, as Sagittarius is very sociable and gregarious sign, who enjoys the company of large groups of people, even complete strangers. Sagittarius tends to kind of talk to anybody. They will happily talk or listen to complete strangers if they have the time to do so. And in fact, Sagittarius is the original party animal, and so like the more the better. With the ruler of Sagittarius, Jupiter, at 25 degrees and 50 minutes, basically 26 degrees in Aquarius, he's making a very interesting T-square with both the moon's nodes during this new moon total solar eclipse. So with a T-square, basically you have an opposition, and then you have that 90-degree angle with a third energy. So because the moon's nodes always travel on an axis opposing each other, and because they're at the very end of Sagittarius and Gemini, and they're about to move into Scorpio and Taurus, they are actually forming a square with the energy of Aquarius and that Jupiter energy. So with a T-square, the energy kind of goes backwards and forwards between these two planets, and then the focus of attention will be directed and kind of come out through the third energy, and that third energy is Jupiter, which again is kind of going to really emphasize and highlight this energy, this solar eclipse energy, which really is about letting go of things that we've been holding on to for too long. So this energy is moving backwards and forwards between our past karmic path and that we have reached the end of, and the new karmic future that we are moving towards. So this is why I feel as though we are literally at this time between worlds. So we're between the old energy of the past and the new energy of the future that is now coming into play, and is going to become really interesting as those nodes move in January as well. So it's almost like a limbo place at this time that we're in. So the fulcrum balancing point of this T-square energy is expansive, magnifying, optimistic, hopeful, beneficent, abundant, fortune-bringing Jupiter. And he's in the sign of the collective, the higher thinking mind, as well as kind of grassroots, building, community, networking, friendships, soul groups, and those people who have remained true to their own integrity despite pressure from the outside to conform. That's all very Aquarian energy. And this is where the unique and the critical thinkers will come into their own, as this is going to be a time of critical challenge for a lot of people still oblivious to the shifting times we are experiencing as a collective, who insist in still trying to do things the old and established ways. And so a lot of people who don't understand, don't see the bigger picture, don't really know what's going on a more kind of cosmic, universal level, who are very kind of focused on the physical and the physical alone, are going to find it very difficult when they realize exactly what is taking place around them in their world at this time. And it will be those, as I was saying, who haven't conformed, who haven't kind of fitted into the norm of how things should be, so to speak, who are going to have to kind of help these others understand what is taking place here as well. So these 0, 1 to 12 degrees of Sagittarius have been very activated leading up to this new moon solar eclipse in Sagittarius, because also on the 29th of November in the UK, it probably was different elsewhere in the world, Mercury cazimied behind the face of the sun at 7 degrees and 8 minutes. So Mercury went behind the sun, meaning that from the earth we can no longer see Mercury. And he did this while also being sextile to Saturn, again implying the release of old past stories. The fact this is happening in Sagittarius is a sign of hope for a new and broader outlook for our future. It will open us up to taking chances and stepping out of our comfort zones, as well as wanting to stretch our horizons intellectually and spiritually, putting our faith in something beyond our current level of understanding. The fact this has happened behind our sun is giving us a chance to rethink, revisit, and not rush into things too quickly without all the information and research needed to make a conscious decision, as Mercury will not be visible now until the end of December. So you might want to check out where these 0, 1 to 2 degrees of the Archer, whose arrow is always being shot into new heights, will land for you when it comes to your personal house placements, as these eclipse energies will also continue right through the rest of December and into the first few months of 2022, possibly up to the spring equinox for those with strong planet or point positionings. Still likely to feel it. So another major energy taking a leading role at the time of this new moon solar eclipse is Neptune at 20 degrees 24 minutes in Pisces. Partly this is due to the connections it is making at this time, but more so due to it having just stationed direct on the 1st of December, thereby increasing its Neptunian energy. Neptune went into its shadow period on the 4th of March at 23 degrees 11 minutes. From then until now, he has only covered 0.3 degrees of Pisces. So in all that period of time, he only moves so slowly that it's 3 degrees of the sky that he covers. And it will take until the 21st of March 2022 until Neptune leaves that shadow. At that point, Neptune will be at the farthest part of the zodiac cycle that he has been since the 4th of April 1858. So that's a long period of time for us to experience Neptune going all the way around, because he's such a slow moving planet. By the time he gets out of his shadow into that 23 degree mark, or 23:12 coming up for 24 degrees, it will have been 100 and can't actually think how many years that is, but it's a long period of time. Maths was never ever been my strong point here. I should have written it down. So anyway, since 1858, he was the last time that he was at that point of 24 degrees of Pisces. And so during this eclipse, however, Neptune is being squared by both the Sun and the Moon, as well as Mercury, from one side, and Black Moon Lilith from the other, creating yet another T-square. With Neptune this time as the focus point of these other four energies. It is also in a trine with Mars at 23 degrees 40 minutes. Still making its way through Scorpio. So Mars hasn't left Scorpio there. And he's continuing to bring up some of our deepest, darkest fears, some of our deeply buried emotions. As I say, Scorpio is the sign for me of the emotional graveyard. So Mars is going to continue bringing those up to the surface, and during this solar eclipse, again, it's about letting go and releasing in order to be able to bring in the new, which is also an interesting thing about this great attractor as well, because it's also kind of asking us, what are we attracting into our life, and where is that coming from? Our memories, our thoughts, our stories, as I was saying, that we keep telling ourselves and other people. Which is also kind of related to that idea of the law of attraction as well. What you attract into your life is what you believe in the first place, which goes back to this solar eclipse belief being the major kind of energy of Sagittarius, our belief systems being kind of who we become. So So Mars in Scorpio, of course, it's his home sign, or one of his home signs as well. Pluto is the major ruler of Scorpio, but Mars was the original ruler of Scorpio. So yeah, at the same time, he's asking us what is it we need to let go, which parts of our deeper emotions need to die a death in order for the greater transformation to take place, because we can't transform without letting go of that old, dead energy that is we no longer need attached to us. It's time to let go of that baggage and release ourselves collectively and individually as well. So interestingly, at this time, the US is having a natal Neptune at 22 degrees Virgo opposition, Neptune 20 degrees Pisces. So they've just started, Neptune natally in Pisces in Virgo has just started with the Neptune in Pisces to connect with this opposition, which is going to get stronger as Pisces moves forward into that 22 degrees point, because at the moment Pisces is at 20 degrees. So Mars is also conjunct the South Node, and so again more of that, as we're saying, letting go. And that will be exact within just over a week's time on the 14th of December, so just after this solar eclipse happens. And this is also leading up to this point of Mars crossing over the South Node as well, is also Mars helping us to find the courage to let things go, the courage to release ourselves from our past connections to things, whether that be people, places, memories, whatever it is that is still holding us back and not allowing us to really kind of move and transform with the times that are coming. So what is going to make all this very confusing for us at this time, though, is the ongoing T-square with our Sun, Neptune and Black Moon Lilith. With Neptune, the planet of the deep and mysterious, in its own watery world of the 12th house of Pisces, which is also known as the house of ruin or self-undoing, which is why it covers such things as drugs, loss, isolation, self-abuse, victimhood, hidden enemies, as well as the search for a higher kind of transcendent, all-encompassing spiritual love and compassion of the self. And really, when you think about it, the other things, the kind of like the reason that people turn to drugs and self-abuse and victimhood always comes from that place of not feeling loved enough, looking for that love, searching, trying to find the answers, not being self-love, not giving themselves or ourselves enough self-love in the first place in order not to go down that path of trying to find the answer within drugs or self-abuse or victimhood energy. So Neptune is the unknown. It rules the subconscious, the nebulous, the unseen. It is the realm of psychics, mystics, seers, prophets, the creative, artistic, the dreamers, as well as the magical and enchanting, all of which is very kind of appealing. And so along with the lower vibrations of deception, corruption, trickery, smoke and mirrors and castles in the sky, distractions, illusions, escapism, and things not being as they appear. That is all Neptune energy as well. Neptune energy is also very reflective energy as well. It kind of makes us look at things in a deeper way, a deeper understanding, to kind of go below the surface of things, to try and understand things from a deeper vantage point in a way. It is also the higher octave of the planet of love, Venus, which takes it to that next level of compassion and emotional intelligence. And earlier today as well, I haven't actually written this down, but earlier today I was also kind of being given the need for forgiveness as well. Self-forgiveness is really quite important in this whole time period as we are letting go and moving forward and transforming, and stuff is coming up for us and we're looking at our past and our history and our stories, etc. There is a real need here for forgiveness of ourselves as well as forgiveness of others and those around who have done us harm. And that doesn't necessarily mean that we have to forgive somebody in the sense of if they've hurt us to then let them back into our life. That's not what it's saying. It's just saying that it's, you know, it's time to let that connection between that person that harmed or did you wrong in some way, to forgive and let it go, to release it with compassion, because then you're kind of releasing it from yourself as well. You no longer have that connection when you're holding on to something, when you're kind of still looking at the negative energies there. You're kind of still creating that connection with that situation or with that person, so you're still carrying that energy around with you and still bringing it into your aura and your life in general, whether it's with that same person or with somebody else. It's kind of keeps playing out. That's why we keep getting those same experiences that happen over and over again in our lives, until we realize that, you know, it's coming from us. It's us that's creating it in the first place. And so we have to kind of bring it back to us in order to be able to forgive that bigger energy, if you like, to forgive ourselves and our part that we may have played within it all as well. And that's a really hard thing for a lot of people to accept as well. So we often have to surrender our smaller self and our beliefs at what makes us who we are, which after years of indoctrination can be confusing and difficult concepts to grasp. This is where we learn to trust in higher cosmic intelligence and our purpose for the part we play within the microcosm and the macrocosm in the ever-flowing continuum of life. This is all 12th house Pisces energy, and Pisces is still going to be in Neptune is still going to be in Pisces for a few years yet as well. So this energy is still going to be playing out in our lives. So the 12th house is the very last of the zodiac. It is where we merge with the source of all that is. It is the oneness of no separation and the deeper mystery of letting go and becoming whole. So this is the theme of this new moon in Sagittarius solar eclipse, which I have been speaking about for a while now, the letting go and release of our historical collective baggage, which the South Node is telling us we have reached the end of this particular path. Like all eclipses, this is intense energy, which this time will only last for around 2 minutes in actuality. But the effects of this powerful purification will still be happening into 2022. This T-square with Neptune, Black Moon Lilith, and our Sun and Mercury will continue up to the 11th of December, adding to the uncertainty around what we see and hear as truth at this time. We need to be really discerning with all the information we pick up. Mercury drops out of this T-square on the 11th. However, it will still be ongoing up until the 21st of December. The winter solstice in the northern hemisphere, the darkest and shortest day of the year. The summer solstice in the southern hemisphere will continue, this T-square will continue with the remaining trio. So that will be Black Moon Lilith, Neptune and the Sun. Yeah, so those three are still going to carry on squaring each other. And the square with Neptune and Black Moon Lilith, so once that T-square disappears, we will still have that ongoing square with Neptune and Black Moon Lilith, which is going to continue through to the 26th of January 2022. So those planets, or points as well, so Neptune, Black Moon Lilith, Mercury and the Sun are all going to be playing a big part in the energy as we move forward into 2022 through December, especially through December. With the Sun still there, kind of bringing in that highlighted energy. So during this time, this whole period of time, we are going to experience a lot of mixed emotions. I also feel that we're also going to experience and see things that we are not particularly wanting to see, because Black Moon Lilith, like I was saying, also has that taboo energy about her as well, things that go on behind closed doors, like deals under tables and things that are not acceptable in society. And so if you think of what those things may be, then we could see them kind of rising up to the surface as this solar eclipse kind of highlights all of this energy. Again, with Mercury there as well, the media, the mainstream news media may not want to kind of express what is discovered, shall we say. But that doesn't mean that it's not going to get out into the kind of conscious awareness. of people who are researching. Again, more Gemini, Black Moon Lilith, Gemini energy. So Neptune, of course, is the ruler of the age of Pisces that we are leaving behind, that whole eon of roughly 2,160 years. So it is not surprising that as we get nearer to closing out this energy, everything is getting even more intense, nonsensical, and crazier. Neptune will leave Pisces in 2026 and is now in the last 10 degrees of the final decan of the sign of Pisces at 20 degrees, 24 minutes. So he's literally just kind of leaving the last 2 decans, which is kind of like earlier understanding, like the planet kind of getting used to the energies, and then he gets into the last 10 decans, because there's 30 decans, 3 sets of 3 in every sign, and as they move into the last 20 to 30 degrees of that sign, it's when they're kind of maturing and understanding more about that energy, and kind of becomes more of a mature, how can you put it, a mature sense in a way. So basically it's like floundering about in the waters, and then kind of realizing that you don't have to keep floundering about. You can kind of like relax and enjoy just letting the waters kind of hold you up, so to speak. And so, you know, we may at last on some level feel as though we are no longer treading that water, you know, trying to stay afloat in this very turbulent ocean. We kind of are getting more used to it, so we're kind of able to lie back a little bit more and surrender and let go of what it is that we need to accept. So Venus, which is sextile to Neptune at 22 degrees 19 on one side of her, is also conjunct Pluto at 25 degrees 7, so that's in the middle. And then on the other side of her, she's also got a sextile with Mars at 23 degrees 40 on the other side. And Venus is about to take a long journey into the deep dark depths of the Plutonian ruled domain of the underworld, as she has been conjunct with Pluto since the 27th of November. This is a major transit, which we got a small taster of back in like January, the beginning of this year. Venus at 18 degrees 25 minutes and Pluto at 24 degrees 55 minutes, or 25 degrees, started to come together at the exact same degrees as they are now. So this is really interesting. So in January, Venus and Pluto came together and they were at the same degrees. Venus was at 18 degrees and Pluto was at 24, coming up for 25 degrees. And so Venus now is at 18 degrees and Pluto is still at 24 degrees 57 minutes. So again, that 25 degrees mark, like a year later, they're still in that same spot. So this is a hot spot, as the two of them have already met at these points previously in January. At 25 degrees and 6 minutes. So that was where they first became exact. But Venus then carried on her journey. Only now Venus is going to station retrograde on the 19th of December at 26 degrees 29 minutes. So she's going to be conjunct the planet of power, birth, death, all things again considered taboo, regeneration, and the lesson of impermanence. Having entered her shadow on the 17th of November at 11 degrees and 4 minutes of the goat, Venus has been gradually slowing down, and her meaning has become stronger and more important in our lives, which is what happens when a planet goes into shadow, and when it kind of slows down, the energies of that planet become stronger and more intense and more meaningful to us. It's what we're having to deal with at that time. It tends to come up more in our lives. So she's known as a planet of love as well as light. She's the brightest planet we can see, either as an evening or a morning star. Venus is also the planet of our values, relationships, personal finances, desires, and what we own. All of this is going to come into play both individually and collectively during this retrograde period, as Venus will, over the course of this retrograde, connect with Pluto 3 times, which could have feelings similar to the long dark night of the soul, as we wait like the phoenix in the ashes for our rebirth. This is going to be a long period of time, and I will talk more about this when I do the Gemini full moon that's coming up on the 18th of December. So we also have attached to this new moon in Sagittarius solar eclipse the energy of Chiron, the wounded healer. Is still retrograde, working his way back over the 12 degrees 55 minutes to the 8 degrees 26 degrees that he entered on the 22nd of March. So Chiron has also been on his own kind of inner reflective journey as well, healing things as he goes. And he's been retrograde since the 15th of July and will soon be stationing direct. But that's not until January. So again, I will talk about that later. So during this eclipse, he is at 8 degrees 32 of Aries. So he too is slowing right down, and his energy is being magnified as he trines both the sun and moon and is sextile to Saturn. This is bringing in a strong theme of healing the old, particularly around the masculine warrior nature of what is now viewed by many as the toxic male. Of course, he's also opposing at the moment the energy of Makemake as well. So there actually is, I've just realised, there is actually a T-square being formed at this time with Chiron in Aries at 8 degrees, and then we've got Makemake in Libra also around the 8 degrees mark, and then we've also got Saturn. So Saturn is that energy of the T-square at this time as well, which I've only just realised when I was reading this. So this is bringing in, like as I was saying, that really strong healing around that very masculine, very warrior-like, very kind of, because if you think of Mars as being the ruler of Aries, Mars is the god of war, so it is that really kind of masculine historical idea of how a man should be, and it could relate to the father figure as well because of the Saturn connection here. So not just the father figure for this lifetime, but also for generational lifetimes as well. Again, those stories being handed down from father to son, etc., etc. And of course, it doesn't have to just be to sons, it can also be to daughters as well. But it kind of brings out that masculine side of either male or female. So especially if it has been a kind of aggressive, very warlike approach to that masculine energy as well, that has been kind of instilled into families ancestrally over and over and over again, which is basically how it has been for a long time. So yeah, the kind of stern and also very Saturn responsibility driven kind of idea of the masculine energy as well. And for the collective, this can also come through as patriarchal regimes that still sit behind the seats of authority, military governing bodies that enforce rules and statutory bills upon us. This is all part of what needs to be challenged and ultimately healed from within both the male and feminine aspects of our own true nature. And with that connection to Make, again, that higher energy of Saturn being in the 3D, Make being the 5D energy, which is coming through at this time as well, that higher vibrational frequency that is coming in. It is kind of bringing out a different kind of masculine warrior, more of a kind of a peaceful orientated, because Make is in Libra, and Libra is all about peace and harmony and balance. So it's kind of bringing forward this more, I wouldn't say less determined energy, but it's kind of like there is a different way of doing this. It doesn't always have to be like this harsh, aggressive energy that has to be instilled into man. It's literally like that backfiring energy that we are seeing that is taking place at this time as well. So that's very interesting. And of course we've also got as well, I haven't spoken about that in my writing, but we do still have the ongoing T-square that's happening with Haumea and Eris, as well as Pluto as well in the background here, which is firing everything else up too. So we have Uranus at 11 degrees 38, talking about firing things up in Taurus, and is still making its way backward to the last exact square with Saturn. And we are, as they approach each other, experiencing this ongoing struggle for domination of the old paradigm versus the new. And during this new moon in Sagittarius solar eclipse, Uranus is quincunx them both. So Uranus is quincunx both the sun and the moon. And this is putting an extra spark into the already unexpected being created, shockingly, even forcefully awakening us from a place of the higher mind, pushing for truth, revelations on galactic disclosure, and our true connection with the cosmos. The fight for freedom to be an individual amongst the technocratic, unhumanistic agenda coming down the pipeline will also be being felt much more strongly at this time. Uranus and the new moon solar eclipse are telling us to wake up from the deep hypnotic trance we have been under during this Piscean age. And remember, we are and always have been co-creators with the universe. So the path this new moon in Sagittarius solar eclipse will be taking is going to be experienced and seen mostly over Antarctica, the southern tip of Africa, South America, New Zealand and Australia. Another thing to point out here is that the US ascendant is bang on top of this eclipse at 12 degrees 21 minutes. I mean, absolutely bang on top. 12 degrees 21 minutes. So the attention of the world is very much going to be focused in that direction over the coming months and into the years ahead, as the US is going to experience some of its biggest changes yet to be seen, transformationally, as it is about to go through its first Pluto return since its birth in 1776. And the ascendant represents the identity, so it's going through, it's having an identity crisis at the moment, the US, which can be seen if you take any notice of US politics, etc. You can see that really strongly playing out at this time. So of course with this Neptune opposition of kind of confusion, not really knowing what's going on, who you are, literally identity crisis as well, with this kind of ascendant bang on top of this solar eclipse. So just like the last time with the full moon lunar eclipse in Taurus conjunct the object known as Sedna, this eclipse also has a major energy held in this profound time of change. Conjunct here at 9 degrees 36 minutes of Sagittarius. And this is Antares, who sits at the heart of the constellation of the Scorpion and is known as one of the fixed royal stars, first called so by the Persians. The meaning of the name Antares, however, comes from the Greek anti-Aris, Ares being the Greek for the god of war, Mars, the ruler of Aries. So you've got Aries and Aris. So this is possibly because the star itself flashes fiery red and green like the eye of a dragon, which the ancient Chinese believed the constellation of Scorpio to be. And it's interesting because I read that bit about the eye flashing red and green and I thought, oh, that sounds like a dragon. And it wasn't until later when I was researching more that I came across the fact that the Chinese actually believed that it was a dragon, that the Scorpio constellation in the sky, the Chinese originally saw it as a dragon. So so as a rival to Mars himself, Antares is 883 times larger than our sun and shows up in our sky as the 15th brightest star. This is the star of those with a warrior nature, which can be impulsive, headstrong, stubborn, but also courageous, which at this time I think we're really needing to kind of tune into that courageous energy. With everything that's going on around us in the world at this time, we need to be courageous enough to not just give in to things that are happening, and to stand up with that warrior nature and say that you don't agree, you don't approve, you're not going to just lie down and take it, basically, which is also this Uranus energy as well. So the star Antares is seen as an unpredictable star, causes upset and changes on a grand scale, and is said the loss of success gained can be achieved by one's own undoing. The Persians saw Antares as one of the 4 archangels, also known as the Watchers. Antares is Uriel, the Watcher in the West, who doesn't appear in the sacred texts and is responsible for the secret knowledge to do with a great disaster, and would only reveal it to those judged able to accept it and still believe in the divine goodness of all life's experiences. So Uriel doesn't share all his wisdom, his secrets and his knowledge with everybody, only those. And it's interesting because the mystic schools were very much that way inclined as well, the mystic schools that grew up. Not everybody was able to have that education or that learning. Not everybody had the ability to grasp the concepts. So I kind of see it in the same way with the secret wisdom and the knowledge. It was only kept that way because not everybody had that level of comprehension or understanding or ability to do so. So Antares demands we take a stand for our truth against the established conditions of our personal lives and against the established authority directing our lives when those conditions and that authority are no longer in our best interest nor supporting our evolutionary freedom, which really kind of sums it all up perfectly. And that comes from a site called www.souldote.org, cosmology highlights, and it talks about Antares, and it goes into a deeper kind of understanding of what this star is all about. So there is a link for that on the blog, which I will also add to the description, like I said. So if you want to find out any more about these like the fixed stars, particularly the royal stars, then that's a good place to start. And so the Sabian symbol for this 12 degrees of Sagittarius, interestingly, is a flag that turns into an eagle. The eagle into a chanticleer, saluting the dawn. Again, not 100% certain how to pronounce that. Chanticleer, I'm presuming that that's an instrument. That I think it might be what was played and is still played in the US, because this talks about, for me, this talks very much about the whole US idea of patriotism, etc. Anyway, I will tell you what it says. It says, this symbol shows being able to proclaim one's feelings, beliefs, love of country or political opinions without feeling they are likely to be criticised, shot down or dismissed. Our highest ideals can be expressed proudly like a flag and as an expression of spiritual purity. The eagle at dawn. You may find that you are regularly moved to burst forth with your ideas, giving voice to what you think and feel. However, some may not like the message or what you have to say, how you say it or where you say it. However, issues that are really worthwhile and centred will be seen by many and heard in the clear light of day. And so the declared idealism, trumpeting ideals, national pride, peak experiences, issues of patriotism, flags, political displays, nobility and pride, national anthems, pomp and ceremony. And I find it really interesting that this happens to be the Sabian symbol for this particular time, with the US ascendant bang on top of this solar eclipse and everything that else is going on at this time in the US as well. It really does kind of seem to express this whole journey at this time as well, because what happens in the US is going to be a major player for the rest of the world as well over these coming few years. So I'm going to leave the reading, that part of the reading there, and I will very quickly pull one of these angel script cards, because I do really like these and I'd like to know what they're wanting to say to us at this time. I've just taken out the angel cards themselves, so there isn't any of the other part of the cards. Oh, let's have a look. Sorry about that. Ah, that's difficult. Can't pick that one up. Okay, got it. So we have two cards here. We have Samael and Raziel. And that's very bright. Sorry about that glare. There we go. Those are the two cards that fell out face up. There was another card, but that's Gabrielle. Now that's interesting, because this card kept falling out earlier today. It kept kind of popping up in various different places, like it fell into the drawer down there as well. So maybe we should have a look at all three, because Gabrielle has definitely been hanging around, so to speak. So let's have a quick look. Samael is adversity. It tests our diligence and our dedication, provides boundaries and limitations in order that we may grow in strength and purpose. This archangel strips away the old and useless. It encourages new beginnings by pruning dead wood from the tree. We learn how best to develop our gifts when the teacher insists that we make progress, even at those times when we feel inclined to rest on laurels already gained. Samael does not permit laziness. It insists on hard work and commitment to the goal. Meeting Samael is like meeting a parent who wishes the best for us and delivers stern advice. We will not be allowed to stumble or falter, since the parent who insists on growth and progress has our best interests at heart. We may feel tasks have been set which are too difficult, but we are never asked to undertake the impossible, and we will always be supported in equal proportion to our own effort. Samael is tempered steel, strong and inflexible. It creates girders for the building of our bridges, and these structures will hold fast against decay. Storms and earthquakes cannot shift the products of hearts who have laboured diligently. Samael provides firm foundations on which to build a city of light. When we are asked to work, we must join in with delight. The master only becomes a foe when agreements are broken and commitments are unfulfilled. Samael blocks a free passage only when we have chosen the wrong path. Adversity becomes necessity only in the face of our own foolishness. Then we are corrected, and that which seemed difficult is smoothed away. So that's an interesting energy. Adversity. Changes on the path as well, because that's something else that eclipses do as well. They do kind of shift our paths, or they bring us back into alignment with our path and where we should be if we're too far off of that path. So let's see what Raziel has to say. Raziel is wisdom and brings insight and direct perception of the deep mysteries of the cosmos. It carries the wisdom of the ancients and the understanding of the cosmic Father. It encourages us to discover for ourselves the beauty and intricate complexity of the creation. Raziel brings the Book of Wisdom, which contains the inner knowledge that protects and empowers us. Like a father, it imparts to us the information which enables us to make our way as independent beings. We are entrusted with the wisdom as our birthright, and we abuse it at our peril. When the Divine Father considers that the child is still too young to handle this power with consideration and respect, then the book will be hidden away. Like small children hunting for birthday gifts before the day is due, we search for the book, knowing that it is truly intended for us. Sometimes we become frustrated and angry, then we may tread without caution and create havoc. If we act destructively in our search for answers, we will suffer. The more we attempt to grasp wisdom, the more it will elude us. Raziel is the eye of illumination. It brings a sudden light into the mind, and what was unclear becomes clarified. What was mysterious becomes transparent. We cannot grasp this with the intellect, only with the deepest, most silent part of the mind. We understand without words, and then we attempt to communicate in whatever way we can. This wisdom needs no evidence, and it is not subject to analysis. Its truthfulness is apparent and is demonstrated by its usefulness. When we discover and understand this deep mystery, we are empowered to live correctly. So I said this archangel here, Samael, sounds a bit Saturn-like to me, which Saturn does always actually work through adversity as well. So that's interesting. And the Raziel energy here sounds very similar to Uranus, like Uranian energy as well, that kind of open-minded, third eye, cosmic, higher-minded energy coming through there. And so lastly, and interestingly, Saturn and Uranus of course are in that T-square as well. So they, not T-square, square energy, and they are really kind of ramping up that push for removing the old to bring in the new and to rebuild from a different energy. And Gabrielle is change. Interesting. So Gabrielle brings messages from the divine and heralds change. Sometimes change comes as a shock, sometimes it shifts us lightly. When Gabrielle invades our lives, it demands our wholehearted attention. We are not permitted to ignore the requests of the divine. Our lives may be overturned and we may feel that chaos has entered. In order to move forward, the old and the outworn must be stripped away. So this feels like the actual kind of solar eclipse energy itself in a way, which is interesting because it's got like that solar energy behind its head there as well. Gabrielle is the guide to the underworld. Trust in this and you will be transported across the silent river without coming to harm. Gabrielle requires surrender to the intention of the divine, but we have already entered into an agreement to fulfill certain obligations. We are only being reminded of our commitment. Before we were born, we contracted to grow and develop, to fulfill a vision which we set ourselves willingly with the advice of our divine parents. Now we are being reminded of promises made earlier. We knew that Gabrielle would watch out for us, and if we strayed from the true path, would use all its powers to call our attention back to our self-appointed goal. Gabrielle may startle you, but its guidance is true. It may arrive with a request or a gift. Be assured if Gabrielle presents itself to you, your life will be enriched, not threatened. Such a visitation means no more nor less than a reminder of your purpose. Gabrielle does not always speak directly, but may drop hints and use tricks to call you to attention. Watch out for small pointers and signs along the curbside, since you will not necessarily see a sign lit up with bright lights. Very interesting. It kind of like feels to me as though it is summing up the energies at this time quite kind of succinctly, very kind of, I wish that wasn't so glary. Unfortunately, it seems to be. So, I'm going to leave that reading there and say thank you very much to those of you who have listened to it all right the way through to the end. I know it's getting fairly long now. So I'm going to say wish you all the best. I hope this solar eclipse in Sagittarius brings you new insight, new beginnings, new kind of push forward into where you want to be and doing what it is that you really want to be doing. And I hope that you have a good time really with this energy. I know it's going to be a really powerful energy, and I know that from now through to 2022 we are going to experience some major changes along the way. So just be prepared for what is coming along this collective path that we are going down at this time. So as Gabriel said, we contracted with this before we even came here. It's just remembering, reminding ourselves and allowing ourselves to accept that that is how it is. And on that note, again, I'm going to say thank you very much. If you want to like my video, please do so. Also subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Thank you to those of you who do subscribe, and to those of you who have subscribed already or liked my videos already as well. I really do appreciate it. And for those of you who do share my videos as well, thank you very much. It really does make a difference and helps me out to get my messages out there. So hopefully I will see you all again next time. Please take good care.